your very own Stormbreaker from Marvel's new movie, Thor: Love and Props in the Marvel Universe. I think it looks so good. I think my Stormbreaker actually came out very nicely. So here I am just freehand sketching the main part of the axe on some 12mm thick foam. And here you can see I'm just cutting that out with an X-Acto knife. And basically, to get the right thickness, I'm just going to trace this out a couple times and stack them together. So as you can see here, these pieces just stack together like that. I'm going to use some of this contact cement, and I'm going to place it onto one side of the axe head, and then place it on the other side, and once that dries for a little bit, you can start sticking them together. And basically when you're done, you should have 3 pieces stacked together. And now to make the actual blade of the axe, I'm going to use this 6mm foam. And again, I'm just sketching out kind of that blade. And I'm going to start cutting this out. And as you can see here, I'm cutting it at a little bit of an angle. It's actually a lot of an angle. You want to kind of get the biggest bevel that you can on this piece. And you're going to bevel all sides of it, just like this. And you're going to want to cut out 2 pieces. And basically that bevel is going to allow you to glue it together and kind of get a nice sharp, relatively sharp point on the edge of that blade. So now I just use more of this contact cement. And I'm going to stick that blade to that main head of the axe. And that's what one side will look like. And then you take the other side of the blade and glue it onto the other side. And now I'm going to add some contact cement right in the middle of those 2 blades. And then you want to give it a little bit of time to dry, and once it's tacky, you can start compressing it all together. And this is why using foam is nice, because it is flexible and you can get those nice bends, which will make it a lot easier to glue together. And now there's a little opening here at the top of the blade, top and bottom of the blade. So I'm just going to cut out some more of this 6mm foam. And here I'm just cut it at a bevel, and I use some contact cement to close that off. And I want to do that to both sides. And the main body of that axe head is now done. So now I'm going to start making the piece that connects the axe head and kind of the back of that hammer. So here I just cut out this octagon piece. And I'm going to cut out 2 of those pieces, and they're going to be kind of sandwiched around another middle piece, which I'm cutting out here. So you want to take the big piece, add some contact cement, then add the small piece in the middle, and then kind of finish it off with the other big piece. So you should have a sandwich looking piece like this. And here I'm just adding some contact cement, and that is gonna attach right to that axe head like this. And I'm just gonna use some hot glue to kind of reinforce that seam. So now here I'm tracing out a template piece that's going to be used for the back of the Stormbreaker. And you're going to want 4 of those pieces like this. And now I'm going to cut out these kind of 1-inch wide strips. And here you can see I am cutting it at an angle, so you get a nice bevel on all the pieces like this. And basically this is going to be joining all of those other larger pieces that we just cut out. So with some contact cement you can combine those pieces. And you're going to want to do this all around it. And then once you're finished, you should end up with kind of a square piece that'll look just like this. And now you can combine that piece to that middle piece of the axe. And now Stormbreaker is finally starting to come together. And as usual, I just use contact cement. You guys can use hot glue or super glue. I just find contact cement to be a lot stronger. It makes the seams a lot tighter. And I find it's just, you know, a lot easier to work with for the most part. So now so here I just take my blade and I'm cutting these edges at an angle on all four corners first. And you can start to see those beveled edges. And then now I take the blade and start cutting the longer edges of it. And when you're done, you should have a nice beveled end that looks like this. But some of the ends were a little bit rough, so I took a sanding block just to kind of clean it up a little bit. And now to work on some more detailing, I'm going to cut out this rectangular strip on the side. And here I'm cutting it at an angle on both edges like this. And once you pull that piece out, you should have a nice little detailed valley on the side of that hammer, and we're going to do that onto both sides. So now I'm just kind of freehanding some of the details that are going to go onto the axe head. This is using 2mm thick foam. And I just apply it with some super glue. And if you have a little bit of extra hanging off the end, just take some scissors and cut that off. And now to do some more detailing, I'm cutting out these little strips here with some more 2mm thick foam. And this piece just kind of wraps around the edge of that hammer piece. And again, I just use super glue. And here are some more strips for some more detailing that are going to get super glued right around those valley edges. So here I'm just gluing that into place, and you're going to have 4 of those pieces and do it all around the hammer. And you should have something that looks like this at this point. Here's just some more detailed pieces using 2mm foam. These are just going to get super glued to the top and bottom of the hammerhead. And now here I'm just freehand sketching all of the detail lines on the axe. And also on the side of the hammer there's some cool lettering. And I just take another piece of foam and I just glue it to it. So here, going back to the detail lines, I just use an X-Acto knife to score all of those lines, which is how I do a lot of my heat gun, and I heat up all of those lines and the entire hammer to heat seal it. But what happens is that once you add some heat to it, those details are going to open up a little bit. Fits better for your Stormbreaker. And now I am cutting out this section at the bottom of the hammer. And basically there's going to be a little gap here that you can glue your pipe into. You could also cut all the way through the hammer and stick the pipe all the way through for more support. But what I like to do is I just kind of drench this in hot glue, and I really did not hold back because the hot glue will get hard and it'll add a lot of strength to it, so you guys can definitely do the same. So once you're done weathering it, you should have something that looks like this. Contact cement on the edges, and I'm going to seal that around the pipe. And I left this bottom open because we're going to add a little flare out piece to make it look more accurate. So here I'm just adding a small piece of foam around it. And then I'm going to use this foam piece to glue to the bottom of the long strip. And then as you can see, it kind of flares out like a little bell bottom, and that makes it look a lot more accurate. So here what I'm doing is I'm just scoring a bunch of random lines into the foam on the handle. And as you can, and here I'm just going to be cutting off short strips at an angle like this. And so I add some hot glue to one end, and you stick it to the handle like this. And then you just wrap it around the hammerhead and then glue it to the other end of the handle. And we're going to do this a bunch of times to make it look like Groot's arm, and to make it look like a bunch of branches that are holding onto the hammer.